COVID-19 pandemic chronology. This is a reflection video, so I'm going to talk about a day prior to today and the day I'm going to reflect on in the COVID-19 kind of outbreak and pandemic. So this is part of the outbreak pre-pandemic. We got hit in Washington State with the first confirmed case on 21 January 2020. And so in Washington State, in Snohomish County, which is approximately 2 miles north of me, where I live and where I was living at the time. And so on Thursday, January 23, 2020, 2 days after our first confirmed case in the United States and in Washington State, in the morning from the Seattle Times, I got the morning brief, which started off with, it was actually I guess a fun tidbit, or not fun, but for people who are unfamiliar with Seattle, so I live in the city of Shoreline, which is northern suburbs of Seattle, and there was a mass shooting in Seattle, and it was the third shooting in a 24-hour period in downtown Seattle. So for people who think that Seattle is a safe city, I'm pretty sure 3 shootings, one of which is a mass shooting in a 24-hour period, that's not really safe in any city. So it's just one of those stereotypes I've heard about Seattle, and I've been like, clearly these people have never been to Seattle or read the news when in Seattle, because that kind of stuff's not, like, shootings are not that uncommon here, kind of thing. Just some people aren't that tuned in. So that was the big front line for the morning brief topic, headline. And then under Need to Know, so it was about Snohomish County and the Wuhan coronavirus. So at that time, COVID-19 was not yet termed COVID-19. It started off as Wuhan coronavirus, and if I'm recalling correctly, as I go through these reflection videos, I think the next term was novel coronavirus and then COVID-19, or COVID-19 and novel coronavirus kind of came together. But whereas it did not start at COVID-19. Although there was with the World Health Organization, they did term it something official, which is still, it's longer than COVID-19, the full name of the virus from the World Health Organization. And that was, I think, they identified it like December 31, 2019. So the virus itself, the 19 means 2019. So the virus itself outbroke in 2019, not 2020. It didn't hit the United States of America until 2020. So almost a month later, from on the World Health Organization timescale. So we got this news brief about the Wuhan coronavirus. The day before it was, so on 21 January, it was first confirmed case in Washington State and the United States of America. The day after that, so before 23 January, so 22 January was first confirmed case and potentially more coming. And then this was day 3, so January 23, day 3. The person who had the first confirmed case had contact with 16 or more people at the airport in Snohomish County. So we got, not only is there more incoming, there's already 16 potential new cases. They had contact with over 16 people, 16 or more people, and so there's potentially quite a few more cases coming, potentially. So, and then to give us more context, because the virus broke out in 2019 in China, so it didn't, it's not exactly in the news life cycle, you know, when old news is 3 days ago, this is like ancient history in China where it broke out in 2019 and started spreading around the world in 2020 kind of thing. So it talks a little bit about, gives context about China and how China is doing. So I get this in the morning, so the email is timestamped at 7:24 a.m. And what did I do during the day? Well, so that's kind of the pandemic part, but they're talking about, I mean, one of the first questions is this going to become a pandemic? Because it didn't start in the United States, right? So by the time it hits the United States, it started in China. By the time it hits the United States, you got at least 2 continents that have infections. right? So, and a pandemic is global. So it's not like, oh, it's just the United States of America. No, this thing didn't even start in the United States of America. By the time it reached the United States of America, that's 2 continents. So we're looking at, okay, and this was just regular travelers. So if, right, and regular travelers weren't restricted yet. So there's a good chance this could spread. And so this is me, approximately a little over 2 hours later at 9:38 a.m. on 23 January 2020. This is Shotzi, the Mustang Lander, who I nicknamed the Shotzinator. And this is me, Tanis, Coralee, Leonhardi. And I'm on my phone, and we're sitting on the couch, and I got this morning brief, and I'm going, all right. I had not just moved home from California, but I quit my job on October 31, or jobs on October 31, 2019, and moved preliminarily home, went back to California, got the rest of my stuff. Severance pay lasted, and I moved home by like mid-November 2019. Then I spent the next, so up till about this time, I was dealing with talking with my landlords in California, getting utilities and internet switched over to the people I was living with, because I was in charge of that when I was living in California, making sure they found somebody to fill my spot on the lease, and then making sure I got all of the, I got my severance pay. Somebody from the department called to make sure to withdraw me from classes because I was enrolled as a student in addition to working, kind of thing. And I was in graduate school. And so that, and then somebody called from the department, made sure to withdraw me. I still needed to get my driver's license. And then I was thinking about, well, what about a job? What about work? And what about, I was figuring out some of the loose ends and subscriptions, or not subscriptions, but like memberships. Like I had a YMCA membership. How do I cancel that now that I'm out of state? Can I still keep the same bank account now that I'm out of state? And then what about taxes? I hadn't written down the passwords to some of my stuff online. And so it was like, how do I figure, I quit the school, and if I quit, then I lose my school email, which this was saved in or some form of verification. I didn't switch my emails when I quit. It was a very abrupt quit. So in the database, it still has this old school email, but I don't have access to that email anymore because it's been more than, 60 days. Is that right? Yeah. And so, there was a bit of, I don't know how to access some of the stuff I need just for tax documents. And so that's all going on. I moved home from California. I was like, but I need a plan, because maybe I was still working on wrapping up moving home from California and getting that kind of packaged and ended. And then how do I move forward, thinking about the reality of the situation is I worked during the swine flu pandemic, which was 2008 to 2010-ish. And that affected hiring. I got to keep my job because I was already on staff, kind of thing. But there was not as many people hired during the swine flu pandemic, at least in my experience. That might not have been overall, but I was like, okay, so am I gonna apply for a job that might, if this thing snowballs into a pandemic, I could, get hired in February and then be laid off, 2 months later, if it snowballed into a pandemic and a lot of stuff got shut down. So I was like, it might not be the most reasonable step forward at this point in time, or a rational step forward. So what can I do instead? What is my intermediate term plan in case this thing does shut down and I need to have some form of work product? So I was like, I had already made some edits on Wikipedia. So essentially what I did on 23 January 2020 is I came up with a pandemic plan. And my pandemic plan was Yelp, YouTube, and Wikipedia. And I have done all of those things. Fast forward over 2.5 years later, I have done and I'm still doing those in fluctuating capacities. So it was a good choice, and it was good that I took a few days to do this. But I kind of hungered down this one day and was like, think it through. So I was like, what can I do on YouTube? Well, I moved states, and the last video posted on my channel, I think, was from California. So maybe I'll post, there was like one video I really wanted to post that I'd filmed in California but hadn't, because I quit abruptly, had not yet put on YouTube. So I was like, I can put that one on YouTube. I traveled to Scotland in July 2019, and I had like a highlights video, but I hadn't like put more of my stuff on YouTube. So I was like, I can put some of my Scotland stuff on YouTube. I can go do some driving around, maybe go on a few hikes and put some YouTube content out that way. But I was like, essentially my pandemic plan for YouTube was start somewhere. Start putting stuff out, and then kind of fine tune and come up with some bigger game plans. And there were some topics that I'd like been mulling over that I was like, it'd be fun to do a YouTube video on this. And I was like, all right, that's nice that I have a plan, but I need to start putting stuff out. So I was like, start with stuff I already have. Instead of freaking myself out and going and filming new videos and going to new places, just work with what I have and start moving forward that way. So that was kind of my YouTube plan I came up with. Then the Yelp plan was start writing reviews about places I've already been, find pictures on my computer or the shared computer, or scan pictures, or go out and take new pictures, or for this past one, to write about places I've already been, and go to new places and write some reviews. It's great to just get some writing output. And then Wikipedia was like, I would say, if I was like thinking in terms of a job, I was like, it's great that I've made some edits on Wikipedia. If I'm really serious about writing and having some form of work product I can show, edits, so make edits on Wikipedia, but make new pages. Try one page. Try something related to what I did. And so my PhD was, when I was in graduate school was, my focus when I left was mineral physics and magnetism. And so, and like volcanology, and I also worked on planetary interiors when I was there, so like Uranus and that kind of stuff. And I was like, I should make a page for a mineral. And so that kind of all started, I was like, gotta start somewhere. Essentially it was, if I apply for a job later, I can go and be like, if I make pages, so write and publish pages on Wikipedia, I can provide that as work product. If someone asks for a portfolio or asks to see what I've been doing, I can say, I have been writing and publishing on Wikipedia, here's my user page, and here's a list of all of the articles I've created. And if you look at the revision histories, you can see on whether I'm keeping up with them or not. So it was very much thinking about self-development, working on my writing, contributing to a larger community, but also if I apply for a job, I have something to show. Especially in the case that it goes this way, if it goes this way, having something to show if things shut down. And so those were essentially my game plan. I had rough game plans for YouTube, Yelp, and Wikipedia, and I came up with it all on 23 January 2022, or not 2022, 2020, right? These were rough game plans of just get something out. Start with what I know, start with what I have, work with what I have. I don't need to go get new stuff. Work with what I have and get something out on each kind of thing. Maybe not the same day, but get it out. So that was my 23 January 2020 was not rushing forward, but also addressing, come up with something I can do in the case that things do go kind of like getting shut down. And in the workplace, hiring process is affected with kind of like it was with the swine flu, also known as H1N1, I think, pandemic. That one was, the hiring process was affected, but if one was already on staff, that part was not affected. So like that kind of thing. So it was a very particular thing. So it's like reflecting on the last pandemic that related to, and I was in the workforce for, and being like, oh yeah, hiring was affected. I should think about that. And what can I still work on to give myself credibility, work product, so to speak. And there was, potentially 16 or more new cases that this person had